very interesting.
Yeah.
Especially when we're streaming it.
Ask LeBron how he feels about that. So he's the, I guess he's the superintendent, is my guess. It's mostly, I think, exterior.
Not too far.
They did one in June on Sticker Island. Chris Coons' last day, huh? I'm sure you're interested in that job.
Hi! Good to see you too! Is your person here? I think she's trying to find it. Okay. And how are you? Good. She drives. Yeah, well, anytime. Karen's moving it today, so I'm so excited.
Good morning. Good to see ya.
talk about
Yeah.
school bus inspection? All right, guys.
Let me do this.
So these are two MVIs, so motor vehicle inspectors that do this day in and day out for us. So we're over 19,000 school buses in the state of Ohio. So they do an annual inspection before school starts, and then we're doing what's called a spot inspection during the school season to make sure that the buses are still in safety compliance. So we have a web-based system that we use that we document everything that we find, and that system is actually designed for inspectors through the inspection process, so it stays consistent all the way across. Right? So we're all human.
So Matt, so is the process, what you're doing now, saying that this is 5 years ago, 10 years ago, updated any?
Yes, sir. So we're constantly looking at it, but so far we've not found a better way to do that inspection process to assure that those 182 points of inspection that we're looking at are constantly met and that we're able to meet the safety requirements that we're putting on these school buses. So,
Do you want sound from this?
yep, go ahead.
Doesn't matter to me, but
The only caution I have is don't stand directly in front of the bus.
Okay. Well, we won't then. I'll get out of the way.
So they're going to go through their light checks right now. And then listing and now they're going to start checking lights. So circles on both sides. Headlights, the ID lamp, so the 3 markers across the top. And then now right now they're going into the pickup mode. Pickup. So ambers of course turn in, turn off, reds turn off. So your door will open. And then they're making sure that all of that is operating correctly, right down to the hazard. So, inspector on the inside is looking not only to make sure that the buttons and the gauges are working correctly, but that they're getting the spot like that. We'll walk around with them. We're going to walk down the track. All the electronics portion of it, other than the computer control module for the actual machine, is actually in there. So we're opening it up. We're looking for all the connections. We're looking to make sure that the fire, we don't have fire hazards in there. Right? So anything that has the potential of starting a fire. Battery box is just below. That's again another point that we're actually opening, putting our hands on, and making sure that those batteries are secure. We don't want something to be able to just sit in there and rattle around, right? So Ohio has all kinds of different roads. We need to make sure that those batteries are held in there for no matter if you're on a rural road or an urban road, so we don't have to worry about shorts and then moving around. These back to the tires now, so we're looking very specifically all the way down to the lug nuts, making sure that those lug nuts are engaged. And he's going to look, as he's looking at those lug nuts, he's also looking for wear and tear. So if there's movement in the tire, you're going to start seeing different things. So you're going to start seeing wear marks, bare metal, and that's telling you that something is not as tight as it should be to hold those tires on in the form and fashion that you're supposed to. Our guys get their hands dirty. They're putting their hands on everything.
I've seen the wear and tear on the tires.
Yep. So we're looking at tread depth to make sure that it's in compliance. We're looking for wear marks.
What's the requirement on the tread?
We're down to 430 seconds. So that is the least that they're allowed to. Then we would be placing that tire out of service. So Ohio, we say 230 seconds. We've actually gone above and beyond that for the tires, just to make sure that we have that component in there and that there is enough tread on those tires to make sure that they're going to So again, he just completed light checks, making sure that everything, he's going to start checking for emergency. What he did right there, opening that door all the way, is to make sure that that door actually stays in the open position. So an keeping the door open. That locking mechanism is actually designed to leave it open at that full and open outright position. So it's able to stay locked so they can evacuate as quickly as possible. So, and kids practice this at the beginning of school. The drivers are practicing this with them, so they get the opportunity, so it's not just an emergency, it's being done beforehand. So we're doing the inspection to make sure The other thing that they're doing is looking at all the reflective tape to make sure that, obviously we know a giant yellow bus, but in low light levels, we also want to be able to describe that bus to oncoming traffic. That's what all the reflectivity does for us. So even if they can't see the color of the bus, based on the reflectivity in those patterns, they're going to understand I'm approaching a school bus. That's why everything is marked consistently. You'll see it around the emergency exits too. So if we do have an emergency and law enforcement, emergency personnel are coming to a vehicle, they're able to pick up very quickly, where am I looking for emergency exits, and how can we best help children, in this case, to get out and know where points of entry. So, then we'll walk all the way around. Again, he's going to now go under the engine, into the engine compartment. So you'll notice the inspector up top is rocking that steering wheel back and forth. We're checking all the components. We're making sure that the suspension is doing what it's supposed to. The linkage going back and forth is not showing excessive wear. That bus can operate. So if the driver is giving inputs into that, then it's operating the way it should be. And if we're showing excessive wear, we have a potential problem down the road. Tie rods can come out. All those parts and pieces can fail. We want to catch it before they fail. So that's what they're inspecting up to. We're also looking for oil, fluid. We're looking for all the belts, everything that's maintaining, all the way down to the brakes. So he's watching for all that stuff to move, so it's moving correctly. And then he's also measuring the brakes. So that measurement tells us, is it within compliance? Is it actually putting enough force on the system to actually apply the braking system correctly so it stops like it's supposed to? So that's what they're going through there. When he first started, these mirrors that look more like ears out here on the end, these are called crossover mirrors. We check them for vibration and make sure that they're actually secured to the vehicle. These are one of the more important mirrors when it comes to being a bus driver. You can actually see the children. We'll give you opportunity if you wish to sit in the driver's seat where you're actually seeing the children cross in front of you. So if you think of a small child crossing in front of a bus, they're taught 10 feet or more past in front of the bus, but when you have little Johnny that's only this tall, you have the potential of not being able to see them. So these crossover mirrors have to be in a very specific angle. They have to make sure that they don't have that vibration and that they're able to see what's going on. So that's one of many very important parts of it. So far to the point that we actually make them defrost here in the state of Ohio. So just like you would have your side mirrors on your own vehicle where you hit your button and you defrost them, these mirrors are actually required to defrost also, so it doesn't matter what kind of weather we get here in Ohio, they're able to clearly see what's going on. And you'll see a lot of bus drivers at the beginning of their shift, they're out here, and what are they doing? They're cleaning their mirrors. So if you ever come and watch them as they're getting ready for the school day, those are their parts and pieces that they're doing. So, any questions on the outside so far? No. We're good? Okay.
Yeah, so at some point I would like to see your
Absolutely. So I believe he is on the other side here. They're probably going underneath. So you'll get your steps in today, sir. Heading under? Okay. So buses are constructed quite a bit different than, let's say, your car. Buses are actually...
Go ahead and release them.
They are constructed so you have your frame, and then they put the bus body on top, and then they attach it with J-hooks. So the concept is that in an accident, that body can encapsulate the cargo and move during impact, therefore reducing the amount of injury inside. So it's actually slowing that all down. He's going underneath, making sure we don't have any frame issues, that the brakes on the backside are working, that all those connective parts and pieces are actually connected. We're holding it down onto the frame. And then we're also checking to make sure that there's what's called a body isolator pad in between. So it's a piece of rubber that fits in between that frame and the body itself to make sure that if it does need to move, it can move as it's designed back and forth on top of that frame. We're also checking very specifically for holes, muffler issues. If we have a leak in an exhaust and we have a way that it can penetrate, we are now filling the inside of a bus with what? Right? So he's going through and checking for all of that, making very specific that we don't have rust issues. All of those things are being taken care of. The other thing you're hearing is now that the other inspector does not have to be at the controls while he is finishing on the outside, he's actually going through and he's checking all emergency windows, and we can walk inside and explain that to you. If you would like, we'll go through that process. We'll go around. Any questions in regards to undercarriage?
Devin, you want to go outside with?
Our inspectors are going to go through all of the controls that are sitting in front of them. Make sure that all of the lights are working now. They're override switches. So if we have an issue on the light system itself, there is a button that they can push that will actually activate the lights all the way across the top. So even if it doesn't activate it before, and we need people to make sure that they're stopping. This is what you would hear in an emergency, all right? So notifying everybody in the bus that we have a problem, and then being
Can you just sneak a quick picture?
So seat-wise, we're actually doing good.
Make sure she doesn't fall.
There is the correct amount of pad for that seat. Slow down. As safe as possible. We're also meant to not seats are controlled correct. Correct amount of padding.
Yeah, there is. Would you mind going
They're gonna make it open the back of the bus.
Can you shoot through the windows? Are they clear enough?
Too dark.
All buses here also have
say the links have opened the back door that made it easier.
Yes.
Were you able to get up? No. That's why I just used the phone. It's the only way I could slip in.
I was wondering if that dude's around the corner. Maybe you can open the back door.
Well, the alarm will go off.
You think it'll stop?
No, it doesn't. That's the safety feature.
You can see the sheriff deputy.
Never did that. I didn't realize it was so much.
Okay.
It honest. I mean, everyone thinks that what they do is cool, but like in my saying that it's the fact that like the point of view, like it was the coolest. So stuff we were able to do is amazing. Yeah. And I figured that's probably the reason it's so listen to this, but I mean, I'll use it for right, but I'll make sure you guys make
Okay, so run me through what, if I'm driving this bus, what am I looking at? I don't know. Aside, what are the things that I'm supposed to worry about?
So those mirrors that we talked about, these are your crossovers, so you're able
Those
to
guys there.
So these are rear view mirrors on the side. We're talking the ones that are on the nose here. These are
I
the
see.
crossover mirrors. So you see how one of your reporters just walked in front?
Sure.
You can see all the way down in front of the bumper.
I sure can.
So those have to be adjusted just right for the driver to make sure that we can see the nose, and you can actually see down both sides of that bus. So when they go to close their doors and they know that they're ready to start moving, they don't have to worry about one child didn't get on the bus. I shut the door before everybody got on, so they're able to actually see all the way around the bus. And then when they're operating in and around schools, they're able to see all the way around. So they have that, and then this here gives them the opportunity to see. They don't have to turn around. They can look up, and they can see everything behind them. They can see everything else. You want to run the governor through a cycle of criminal license?
Yeah, let me ask a question. One of the things years ago when I was in Congress, we were having problems with kids who would get off the bus and the backpack straying, something would catch, and they wouldn't sleep. And that was, what have you done? With the railing now, you'll see there's no catch point. It has to be 3/4 of an inch or more. And if there is, that bus is out of service, can't use it until they fix it. But you can see
So that was the
there's no
change.
catch point. Yeah,
I knew there was a change. I couldn't remember what
where it was.
Yeah, no catch points whatsoever.
That's also, we have what are called approved options in the state of Ohio that we will allow you to put other things above and beyond the standard that's required here in the state of Ohio.
Yeah.
They actually make sensors that will go on those doors, and when they close, it will sense that there is more in between that door than just the door itself connecting, and it won't allow it to shut. It'll actually open itself back up.
Even just something small.
Yes, like a string off
String.
of a backpack. So we've been able to talk to many manufacturers and the guys that put more thought into this and sit down and have those crucial conversations on how do we do it. They've been able to figure out those type of things. So schools would have that option that if they're concerned with, we would like a little bit extra, they can start putting
It's very effective as well.
Yeah, right. Oh, yeah.
especially when you're asking about driver key, make sure that your are stopped at the turn the lights on the correct sequence. You've actually stopped, and then you're making sure that traffic is coming to the stop sequence. Allow those kids to run across the road and then send them off. It gives them the best ability that they can. They're even making some It is a radio, so they're able to communicate back with the school bus garage. So, very important part when it comes to either the buses broke down. Yep. They have a question with a student. They're supposed to drop a student off, or somebody was just, they're not supposed to drop them off. Transportation director, they have also in cases of emergency. This is where, so it gives them a lifeline. The other thing is, we don't want people talking on phones.
Pick that up. It's live.
As soon as you push the button on the side, you're able to talk. It is literally a walkie talkie. Like with those kids, push the button, they go. Yeah. So, but that gives them that ability or that instant connectivity in between the bus, the garage, and the decision makers. And then every one of those switches runs either lights, fans, heaters. The actual 8 ways, what we call the 8 ways of the student maker lights across the top, your heat props.
Are we still live streaming? Oh, are we still live streaming?
I mean, it's on.
Oh, okay. John just texted me and said they want to use this for a promo, a promo for Education Station. So to overshoot, please make sure to overshoot you at the event for the education promo. I guess, like
You or him?
Me, well, like with the governor, with promo.
Okay.
So, can you give me a quick rundown of what the bus driver has to do?
Go ahead. Well, unfortunately, I have not been a bus driver, sir. So,
Somebody else can tell us that.
I've had the opportunity to talk to several bus drivers. I understand that there's an awful lot of responsibility. I know the Department of Education has done a good job on giving them free service so they understand what they're supposed to be doing, and they constantly train them. They have a whole education portion of that, but I'm not familiar enough with it to speak educatedly for you, sir.
Okay.
Anything else I can answer for you, sir?
Good. Thank you.
Thank you for your
Appreciate
time,
it.
man. It was nice to meet you. Thank you.
Good. Yeah, we can do here, sure.
Do a gaggle for the
Sure,
bus.
sure.
And you guys want to swing around?
Morning, everybody.
Good morning.
All right, Governor. Looking.
Well, let's wait till everybody gets here.
I'm gonna squat in between you guys, so I'm not. Tell me if I'm in your shot, anyone.
You're in my shot.
Yeah,
What I was about to say.
I'll start off with something and then you guys can we'll go do it first. So, yeah. Everybody set?
Get it closer, maybe.
Oh yeah. Here I'm gonna come on this side. Well, I'm not any which one's over here. Perfect.
Am I good? I'll stay low.
Stay low. Try good?
We're good? Well, let me first thank Mr. Heath, Superintendent, the Mentor Schools, for allowing us to come here today and to really see what the Highway Patrol does in regard to the inspection of school buses. The school buses are inspected twice a year. The bus driver also every day has to go through a protocol. Buses are the safest form of transportation for our kids. We had a horrible tragedy in Clark County this past week. Unspeakable tragedy for the school, for the family. Fran and I talked to both parents. It's just a horrible thing. It's a parents' worst nightmare to lose a child. What I'm announcing today is the formation of a working task force to look at, from a holistic point of view, is there anything else we can do to make the rides of our school kids and our school kids safer every single day. We go into this with no preconceptions. We're going to look at, the group will look at absolutely every aspect of this, from the construction of the buses to the maintenance, to the inspections. We'll get into issues like seat belts, an issue that certainly has been raised many times. We have some of the states who require seat belts. Most still do not. But really just take a holistic view of this. It is a safe system. Your child is a lot safer in that school bus than they're going to be, at least statistically, than they are riding with a parent into the school. But we can always make things safer, and that's what the goal will be to come back. So we will be announcing the names of the people who are on this working group. We're going to ask them to do at least 5 hearings. We're going to ask them to come back with a report to me and the legislature and the people of the state of Ohio in December. You'll see, when you see the people who are on the committee, some of them have subject matter expertise, but we're also going to hear from other experts. And one of the things that I'm asking them to do is to have these open hearings so we can have a public discussion, so the public can watch. The experts come in, the people who've had experience with buses, people who have studied this, and see what they have to say about if there are other things that Ohio can do to make our kids safer. So I'm happy to answer any questions. You had a question.
So as you went through the outside of this bus and the inside, talk to me about what you saw and the safetiness around that.
Well, I think, we all had the opportunity just a moment ago to see an abbreviated version of an inspection. The Highway Patrol does this for every bus every year, twice. These are experts. They do this every single day. I asked them, how long does it normally take? And they said, well, if we have 2 people on a bus, if we don't run any kind of problems, it's about a half an hour inspection. So as you look around here and see all the buses here, and then just multiply that all over the state of Ohio, this is a massive undertaking, but it's obviously vitally important. So I don't think I ever sat in the seat of the driver in a school bus, and it's kind of a daunting task. And you think about a bus full of 50 kids or so. You think of these kids getting in and out of that bus, making sure the bus driver has to make sure the traffic is stopped, make sure then the child clears. A huge responsibility. So we all thank our school bus drivers every day. We also want to thank every school has someone who is in charge of transportation. That's a big job. They do a great job as well. So these are people that we just sort of take for granted. Every day we see buses out there. Fran and I, down the road from us, we see some of our grandkids get on a bus every morning at 7:08. Many times we take these bus drivers for granted, but they're doing a phenomenal job to keep our kids safe.
Governor DeWine, speaking of bus drivers, there's a national shortage of bus drivers. Are you how concerned are you when it comes to that bus driver shortage and safety?
Well, I think every school is concerned about making sure they have enough bus drivers. Their margin of error is getting thin. I think some schools, have told me that the backup drivers they have, the alternate drivers they have, those numbers are collapsing. So yes, this is certainly an issue, and this working group can look at that issue as well.
And then let's say this group comes back and says there's changes that need to be made, there's updates. What about funding? Is there future funding that could go to these schools to pay for that?
I think we first have to kind of follow the science, follow the data, follow what the best experts that we can find in this country can tell us about how we make our school buses safer. Then, when we get that back, then we'll have to move and do the things that the recommendation says that we should be doing. So we'll cross that bridge when we get to it, but we're ready to cross the bridge. Look, nothing more important than our kids. We've got to keep them safe. They're safe now on these buses, statistically a lot safer than being in a car, but can we make them safer? That's the question I'm asking this working group, and we will listen to what their answer is. But as the process goes through, this is a public process, so the public is going to also be able to hear. You all will be reporting on what happens at these hearings. You will have the opportunity to hear from experts, from bus drivers, from people who know about this and who have studied this.
Governor DeWine, is this something that's been in the works for a while, or is it something that last week's strategy really inspired?
Well, I think we've always, continued to look at how to make the buses safer. That's an ongoing process from the state, from the Highway Patrol, from the local schools. But there is no doubt that this horrible tragedy that occurred last week, I think, makes us think about this some more and re-examine it and ask the question, which is the question that everyone has been asking me the last week: is there anything else we can do to make our buses safer? And that's the right question, and we need to go find out what that answer is.
So after last week's tragedy, seatbelts are top of mind for
Sure.
a lot of people. So I have a two-part question. One, can you explain why seatbelts aren't mandatory on school buses already? And then two, will the committee have the authority to impose or recommend a seatbelt requirement, and what would it take for that to happen?
There's the debate about seatbelts on buses has been going on for decades. The fact that you do not have a consensus among states, you have some states requiring it, some states not, I think gives you an indication that there obviously are pros and cons in this argument. I'm not the expert, and I don't pretend to be, and that's why we're putting this working group together, and that's why we're asking them to bring in the best information they can, the best studies that have been done, and to make the evaluation. It's like a lot of things in life. You have to weigh it, and look, we have one goal, and that goal is to protect our children and to be as safe as we can. So in regard to will this group have the authority to impose this? No. But what this group comes back with, I think is going to, whatever it is, whatever recommendations they have, some small maybe, some large, we don't know. But I think there's going to be a great deal of weight and authority from this group. We're going to do it publicly. We're going to do it so that the public can see it. We hope that there begins to emerge a consensus even before the final recommendations are made. So the group does not have the authority to mandate it, but This is a report to the people of the states, report to the governor, it's a report to the state legislature, and we'll take action once we get those recommendations.
So this group will be looking into the cost of seatbelts if that is the recommendation.
Sure. I mean, they're going to have to look at everything. They're going to have to look at every aspect of this. And look, no matter what you do, if you do something different, there's going to be a cost connected with that. You know, one of the things that the patrol pointed out is that while there are certain standards in Ohio, there are things where a school has leeway. You know, there are add-ons that you can do. Again, I think this group will look at those add-ons, and one of the questions might be, should those add-ons be mandated? You know, how valuable are they? So these are all things that the working group can look at.
So just so that the public can kind of understand, if the working group did come back with that recommendation, what on the legislative, the government side would need to happen in order for that to come to fruition, I suppose?
Well, there's several different things that can be done. You know, one, you can leave it up to the schools, or two, the state can mandate it. State mandates it, then you have to get into the question of paying for it. But look, I mean, I think speculating on that now is not really particularly wise. I think we just need to wait and see what the recommendations are, and then we can go from there.
Governor, you brought up bringing in and the lack of drivers for the buses. Nationwide, a lot of driver groups have called for higher wages and higher pay like that. Is this going to be something that the group might look into? Sure.
Look, this group has, you know, the safety of our kids on the bus depends on the bus driver, as well as the construction, as well as other things. So the bus driver is an absolutely essential component, obviously, to the safety of these kids. So, you know, what is the training of the bus driver? You know, they certainly can look at that. They can look at pay. They can look at availability. You know, all of those things are just part of the whole issue.
Did you talk to any of the Mentor officials here and say, what would you prefer us to do?
I talked to Superintendent Heath. We had a casual discussion about it, and you know, you can certainly talk to him. So I'm not going to quote him or try to quote him, but obviously this is why we're here today. Right. And you know, one of the things we talked about, you know, is the availability of bus drivers, and you know, I don't think it's a secret. Mentor is like other schools. That, you know, the margin of bus drivers and backup bus drivers is getting smaller. So it's an issue. It's an issue all over the state, all over the country.
But Governor, there's such differences in districts, inequities as far as funding for different districts. Richer districts can do better than, say, rural districts. I mean, even now with the school bus driver shortage, isn't there a potential that maybe the state could help some of these smaller districts, especially rural ones, maybe afford drivers? Because pay is a big issue for a lot of them.
I think the issue of availability of drivers is certainly something that's going to be looked at. If pay is impacting that, this group could look at that as well. Having said that, the primary focus of this group is directly on safety. I mean, their primary job is not to address the bus driver shortage, but in discussing and looking at the safety issue, they certainly can, if this group decides to, can take that issue on as well if they want to. Anybody else?
Yes, I don't know if you know, Mentor, among many communities, had a historic level of tornadoes last week. I don't know if you saw it like on your way into town. Have communities reached out for state aid? Or
as soon as we see that happening on the weather, we reach out to the local communities, wherever that happens, if there's a tornado or sometimes flooding on the Ohio River, whatever it is. You know, we have an emergency department at the state level. They reach out to the local, and we have that contact, you know, very, very quickly.
Thank you.
Okay, thanks everybody. Appreciate it. Nice to see you, my wife Fran. Good to see you. All right.
Thank you again, Governor, for coming out.
Nice to see you. Thank you.
We have a couple.
Thank you.
What are we talking about?
Sorry, I'm gonna try to get a bus driver here.